Thank you very much, Chair, distinguished elders of the Arab and Muslim community in San Diego, other guests, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends. Wassalamu alaikum. I'm very grateful for the warm introduction and the warm welcome in this hot place which you have afforded me, and for the honor of addressing you this evening and tomorrow night again in Anaheim. I'm grateful too to be reminded just how old I am. Because what I didn't say was that those days when we knew each other were long ago in the 1970s, before many of you were born, and the twinning of Dundee with Nablus took place in 1980, and our city hall was indeed the first public building in the whole of the Western world to fly the Palestinian flag, and Habibi is still flying today, 2019. This has been a long journey for me, 3 weeks on the road to Gaza, 4 days in Portugal at the end of that, and then 3 weeks in the United States. I have been living out of a suitcase, therefore, for almost 2 months. So I hope you'll forgive my somewhat bedraggled appearance, and if I appear tired this evening, well, that's because I am. Tomorrow is the last night on what has been a remarkable journey across the United States, north, south, east, and west, as far west now and as far south as it's possible to go. It's been 19 speeches in many, many cities, talking to communities like yours and the allies that they have managed to make and build, alliances they have managed to build. And we do indeed, you're right, have to take it forward, because I didn't come here to entertain you, although I hope it will be entertaining. I came here to recruit you to the next stage in the saving of Gaza, which is dying, and to take forward this struggle for the liberation of all of Palestine and the right of all the Palestinians to return to it. Actually, I began this journey in 1975, and entirely by chance. People ask me always, how did you become so involved in this question? In 1975, I was 21 years old. I was alone in the Labour Party office in the city of Dundee. No one else was there. I was going to say photocopying, but photocopiers hadn't been invented then. I was turning a handle, running off leaflets one by one. When someone came to the door, I almost didn't answer it. And I'm glad that I did, although there have been times when I was sorry that I did, because there at the door was a handsome young man, looked like Omar Sharif, but then all Arabs looked like Omar Sharif. I had never before met an Arab or a Muslim. He said that he wanted to talk to the leaders of the party about Palestine. I told him, there are no leaders here, but you can talk to me, and I will talk to them. And 2 hours later, so mesmerizing was his talk about the catastrophe that the Palestinian people had suffered, that by the end of that 2 hours I was a signed up member of the Palestinian resistance, which I remain to this day. The story turned in 1977 when I went to Lebanon for the first time, first Arab country I had ever visited, to visit the Palestinian revolution there. In the camp of Sabra and Shatila, I met my friend Ron Mackay, who's with me now 32 years later. We're still marching together and still fighting in this cause. Many wives have come and gone in that period, but we're still together. Tells you something. I don't know what. When I was there, I so fell in love with the place and the atmosphere and the people that when the others returned home, I stayed. And I lived in Beirut, in Fakani, with President Arafat, with whom I had a lifelong association. He used to feed me boiled eggs with his own hands in the rubble of Beirut. And I was with him all the best years of my life, and until the last day of his, when I stood outside the Percy Military Hospital in Paris, when he passed away. I mention that because it will become important later in what I have to say. I'm conscious that I come to you as a British person, and I sit in the British Parliament and have done for 22 years, 5 times elected, and every day I pass the very room in which Mr. Balfour authored the entire Palestinian tragedy, when on behalf of one people, he promised a second people the land of a third people. Even by the standards of imperialism of that day, this was a remarkably brazen thing to do. To promise to another group of people the land of a third people that you did not even at that time possess, even in an imperialist sense. I pass also the room, in the same corridor actually, the upper committee room corridor of the House of Commons, where Mr. Sykes and Mr. Picot, with their maps and their pens, were busy drawing at the same time in a small room in London, thousands of miles away, the mini-states that became the Arab countries, and choosing the corrupt kings and later the puppet presidents to rule them, inventing countries which didn't exist, just so they could find a seat for a king who couldn't hold his seat in another part of the Arab world. So I know that the British Empire has much to do with this story. I myself and my family, being of Irish background myself, didn't have much to do with Mr. Balfour. When I was young, this shows how old I am, the maps of the world on our classroom walls were coloured pink, not for reasons of support for gay liberation, but because pink was the colour of the British Empire. Our teacher told us that Britain had an empire so vast that upon it the sun never set. But as my Irish grandfather said, that's because God would never trust the British. I never had cause to doubt him. And I know that our empire is responsible for you being here. But of course, our empire has been superseded by another, still mightier empire. And that's the one in which you're living today. So whatever harsh things I have to say about the United States of America, it's tempered with the knowledge that the British began all of this. Neither am I anti-American in any way. I'm the great-grandson of probably the only woman in the entire 19th century who emigrated from America to Scotland. I think she got on the wrong boat. That's what she did. In the 1880s, she emigrated from New York to Dundee. And as you've seen Dundee, you'll know what a peculiar decision that is. So I have American blood in my veins. I don't have Palestinian blood in my veins, but I have been a citizen of Palestine for the last 15 years. When Ismail Haniyeh presented me with a passport, I didn't like to tell him that President Arafat had given me one many years before. So I have 2 Palestinian passports, and I have the passport of Ismail Haniyeh himself, because he just wanted to give me something. So, hey, he doesn't need it, he can't travel anywhere. So I have it, and one day I'll auction it.